Phil Poppe, Pop or Poppy, Poppe, Pop or Poppy. Phil Poppe, maybe it's Pope. Phil wants to know, fourth movie aside, what exactly is the reason you refuse to acknowledge 2 and 3 as movies in the series? The following opinion is mine alone and might not be shared by anybody else. But for me, for an action movie, for any movie, but specifically, let's say within this conversation, an action movie, for an action movie to involve me, I need 3 things. 3 things. I need to identify with the hero. And I identify with Indy a lot. It just resonates to me. I've got to be afraid of the villain. And Tote is one of the scariest villains in movies. I find him absolutely terrifying. Yeah, he's really scary. And you got to fall in love with the girl or the guy, whatever floats your boat. But Karen Allen's portrayal of Marion is like one of the most perfect heroines in movies to me. Yeah, truly. And Kate Capshaw is an amazing and wonderful actress, but I don't love her character in that film. And the relationship between Indy and her character in the second Raiders film is more slapsticky to me, and it doesn't involve me. It doesn't feel like there's an emotional resonance to that relationship. And I found the villain in the second Raiders film to be inscrutable. Like, it wasn't somebody to be afraid of. It was just more like this thing way over there that was dangerous. And the third Raiders film, I'm not scared of that millionaire at all. Like, there's nothing scary about the villain in that movie. And again, the German lady that also slept with Indy's father. Okay, now that's just weird. And I don't even want to think about the fact that dad and son slept with the same woman. Like, it's just like, come on. So for me, that's why Raiders is not only my favorite of all the Indy films, but I think my number 1 favorite action film of all time. I watch it probably once a year just to kind of get back into that big warm bath of perfection and enjoy it. Edwin Bear says or asks, you're well known for having made your own whips, and you have many Indiana Jones hats. Have you ever thought of making your own Indiana Jones hat or Indy jacket? No, I have not. Like I said, earlier this year, I did something I never thought that I would do, which is I have 3 Adventure Built hats. I have 2 brown fedoras and 1 gray fedora. And because I never took really good care of them, they were all really filthy here, right? Where I wore this specific hat. It doesn't have its liner because I pulled the liner out to clean it. But I wore this specific hat on Mythbusters for years. And so every time I grab this crown, which, by the way, is a bad thing to do to your hat, to keep grabbing it by the crown. You should be grabbing it by the brim, because each time you grab the crown, you sharpen it, you sharpen it, you sharpen it. And each time you're sharpening the crown and then getting your finger oils in there, in order to get those finger oils out, you got to clean it. And when you clean it, you're pulling away little bits of felt. And this right here is where your felt can wear through. Now, you can do some things. You could put some cloth on the back potentially to buttress it. Or you could just, properly take it on and off with the brim instead of the crown. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Earlier this year, I looked at these 3 hats and they were so dirty. I own so many hats, and I've literally gone to hatters where they have steamed hats to size and shape for me while I stood there. I felt like I kind of understood enough about millinery to properly unblock and reshape this hat while cleaning it at the same time. And this I did. Reader, I did. Turns out, can I grab, is it over there? Wait a second. Yes, it is. Wait right there. Okay, so a hat this is beaver felt. This is beaver felt, which means that what this is hundreds of thousands of tiny little lengths of beaver fur, which is super fine, in a glued matrix to create a semi unweaved fabric type material. Yeah. I don't mean to get overly technical. um, but the way in which you shape a hat is you use steam, and steam heats up the felt and it loosens the glue bonds between the pieces of felt and allows you to take the shape out. So if I push this like this, you can see that I've got these like little lighter corners. That's like, what do you call it? Brim, crown burn. You can see these lighter corners, right? So with steam, you can get those out. And I did. And it turns out you don't need a professional hat steamer. You could just use this, my clothing steamer, which I picked up on Craigslist for $50 like 20 years ago. And it's been just one of the most reliable tools in this shop. So I set up my steamer here on the vise and I steamed these hats, all three of them, until they were perfect bowls. And then I went in and I basically put the shape where I wanted it to. Excuse me. I put the shape where I wanted it to be, and I resuscitated them, and that felt really good. You see how this one is off? That's my hat. That's the one. That's what mine does. And that felt really good. That felt. I really spent probably 2 years working up the nerve to do this operation on these amazing hats because they were expensive. Having them reblocked when I had them reblocked was also expensive. I care about these objects a lot. I didn't want to screw it up. So I really just had to sort of roll it over in my head and think about it and kind of get up the courage to do it. And I did it earlier this year. This is the longest way of me explaining. No, I don't think I'm going to try and teaching myself millinery anytime soon. However, that is about being able to clean and reblock my own hats. That feels like an achievement, and that feels like that's the step I'll take into millinery. Or jacket, you said. No, I am not interested in trying to make a perfect Indy jacket for this reason. Where the arm meets the body. The more I sew, the more mystified I am by this attachment in clothing. When you like clothes as much as I do, I know I don't strike you maybe as a clothing person because you almost always see me in a black t-shirt and blue jeans, but I really do like cleaning up. I like dressing up for an event or a party. And yeah, you can find pictures of me in my Paul Smith tux on the red carpet at the Emmys or some other places. And I've got some beautiful suits and some beautiful shirts, some great ties. And I have tastes and opinions about different designers, whether it's Paul Smith or Prada. And one of the key differences in a lot of these designers is specifically the alchemy of how the shoulder falls, of how the cut works with your body and how it actually moves. And I'm here to tell you that you should revere a tailor specifically for the dark art of how a sleeve attaches to the body of a garment. It is mind-blowing to me that it works, and that it works consistently across multiple sizes, and that Prada can have an opinion about a cut exemplified by the way in which they adjust these tiny, tiny little differences and make a beautiful garment. That's like, I know enough about it to know that it feels way beyond me. But I thought that about bleeding my own brakes on my car. So never say never. I eventually did that, and it wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it would be.